Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. On today's episode, we are talking emotion code. And if you have no idea what that is, that's okay. We are going to get into it. The emotion code was developed by a Dr. Bradley Nelson, and he started out as a chiropractor and found over time that he could actually help his patients through a form of energetic healing that he then developed and called this emotion code. And there is a book, you can read all about it. And in fact, you can teach yourself how to do it. But you also can go to a certified practitioner and have it done. And I myself have done that. I've gone to a practitioner on multiple occasions to experience this type of healing. And it's been really transformational and amazing. And so I really wanted to talk about it on this show. I love to give you guys all different ways of returning home to yourself, all different ways of removing the layers that life has piled on top of you, and getting back to the root of who you are really at your core, at your soul level, because from that place is where we make all of our best choices and decisions, where we do all our best work, where we serve from, and where we feel the most joyful and empowered and authentic. So that is what I'm aiming to do here in this episode, is give you another modality to use to return home to yourself. And to find out who you really are at your core. So I invited back my friend Ydaiber, who I had on the show probably near the beginning of this, when I started this podcast. I will link her original episode in the show notes, but she came on talking about human design, which is another really fascinating way of getting to know yourself and who you are and what makes you tick and how you function best in the world. And she did my human design reading, and then I had her on to talk about human design and what it was. And we had so much fun during that interview and during my human design reading, that I knew we were going to have a blast during this conversation as well. And we did. It was really just like sitting down with a girlfriend and having a chat. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope that the emotion code is something that you'll consider looking into. It really has been, like I said, transformational in my life, and it has been in Ydaiber's life as well. And it's so simple and easy. There's really not much to it from a logistical standpoint, but it's so powerful. So it's amazing because it's both powerful and easy at the same time. So take a listen, tell me what you think, and I'll be back at the end. Hey, gorgeous souls, and welcome to the Midlife Purpose Project. I'm your host, Katie Farinas, a yoga teacher and soul purpose coach. And just like you, I'm navigating the wild, beautiful, and sometimes messy terrain of midlife. This is the space where we unpack the shifts happening in our bodies, minds, and souls. We're diving deep into the questions that rise up when everything seems to be changing. Think of this as your toolkit for making sense of this powerful phase of life. We'll have honest conversations, belly laughs, maybe a few tears, and a whole lot of growth. We'll hear from experts on topics that matter to you in midlife, and I'll share yogic philosophy that has been helping humans live with more skill and ease for centuries. Because here's the truth. Everything you've been through, every challenge, every joy, every heartbreak, has been training you for this. You're not broken, you're not lost. You're stepping into your power. So come on in, embrace the mess, the beauty, and the absolute magic of midlife. Let's journey together. All right, Ydaiber, welcome back to the show. I am so excited you are here, both to have this conversation, but also just to be able to sit and chat with you because you're such a lovely person and we haven't seen each other in so long. So welcome back to the show. I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is always a treat to see you. And I love seeing how much your podcast has grown and love all the people that you've been interviewing. So yeah, super happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And today we're going to talk about something that I am super fascinated by, which is called the emotion code. And I honestly cannot remember how I heard about it for the first time, but I read the book by the person who developed it, and I should have looked up his name because I'm blanking on it. Do you remember his name?
Bradley
Doc-
Nelson.
Bradley Nelson. I knew it was Bradley something, and I kept wanting to say Cooper. I'm like, that's not the one.
Wrong Bradley.
Wrong Bradley. Dr. Bradley Nelson. Yeah. And the book really inspired me. It was fascinating, all of his stories, success stories, and how this, he kind of discovered this
Yeah.
method. And then I had some sessions done myself and they were very cool. And so I thought we need to talk about this and people need to
Yeah.
be aware of it. So can you kind of explain to the audience what it is and how it works?
Yeah. So the emotion code is a healing technique that is used to remove trapped emotions. So trapped emotions are any emotions that we subconsciously have kept in our bodies, in our heart, in different organs of our bodies for who knows how long, sometimes even inherited from our parents. And these trapped emotions create these layers of stuckness that doesn't allow us to either succeed or that is blocking us from the things that we want to get, the things that we want to feel, because there's all this stuff in there. So I always talk about like, just kind of like when you want to do spring cleaning, right? And you want to get new clothes and you want to like get everything up to whatever the fashion trend is. Well, first you got to clean your closet. You have to like get rid of the things that you no longer wear, that no longer serve you. And it's the same thing with emotions. We've been carrying emotions that we most likely don't even know about. So this is something that is at your subconscious level. So you're not walking around with like, I experienced terror when I was 5 because I was bullied. You're maybe not walking around with that. Some people do, but your subconscious do remember and your heart does remember. So what we do is we access your subconscious in order to clear these trapped emotions and hopefully allow you for a more cohesive and easy and peaceful life.
Yeah. And it can also, as my understanding, relieve actual physical pain for some
Mm-hmm.
people, right? So if you're having pain in an area of your body, you've had it checked out, they're telling you, we don't see anything, we don't see any source of this pain, cause for this pain inside your body. It could actually be a trapped emotion.
100%. So as you can imagine, everything that we are, everything that we do is energy. So if we're talking about a trapped emotion, then it might be causing a discomfort in an area because some emotions kind of lodge in certain parts of the body. For example, grief, right? Grief is usually associated with the heart, right? And then you might start experiencing chest pains or some sort of discomfort that you might not realize that is not an actual illness, but is energy that is trapped. It's emotions that are trapped, and it's this discomfort that you're not certain why you're feeling it. And the very first time that I got a session, that actually was the very first emotion that came out. And I was super surprised because the woman that I did my session with, who is my mentor, she had no idea who I was, what I had gone through. She had no idea. And the moment that she says to me on our first session, on our first emotion, that grief is what's coming up, I broke down because to me, it's like I thought, again, with the mind, that I had
Mhm.
processed my emotions, that I had worked on it,
Yeah.
and the body knows differently. And
Yeah.
no wonder why a lot of my own health journey has been with things surrounding the heart area. So it
Yeah.
makes so much sense. It makes so much sense.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Actually, you telling me that story is triggering. I now remember how I learned about this for the first time. I was actually being interviewed on someone else's podcast, and somehow my journey with migraine came up, and she said, have you ever tried this emotion code therapy? And I'm like, well, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she kind of explained it to me. And one of the things that she said, which is what triggered this for me when you were saying, I thought in my mind that I had processed it and that I had worked through this grief, but obviously on a subconscious level, it was still there. She kind of flipped that and was saying, people often don't want to have to revisit really difficult things that have happened to them. And you don't necessarily have to, that this method allows you to clear and release the energy of that difficult experience out of your body without you having to go back, think about it, talk about it, basically relive it. Because a lot of these experiences are pretty traumatizing and people they fear going back to that place and you can't blame them. And so they want to avoid it. and that this type of therapy can actually help you to do that without having to go back and revisit it.
Super important that you mentioned that, because when I'm running a session, that is something that gives my clients comfort, knowing that we do not have to talk about anything they don't want to talk about. I don't need that information in order to release the emotion. It helps to identify the root of it, but it doesn't make a difference. Like, I don't need to know what happened, because you might not even remember it again at the conscious level. You might not remember what is it that it happens. Funny enough, almost, I would say 90% of the time, people, if they don't remember at the moment, then they text me or call me later and they're like, oh my God, that thing that happened to me when I was 7, it just came to me. I'm like, okay, I'm not surprised. Because that's the thing, we push things down, right? We avoid talking about it. It's too painful. We think we're over it or whatever the case is, and then we don't bring it up anymore. But your body and your subconscious do know. And the other thing is, within the emotion code, there is what we talk about, the heart wall, right? It's a wall that builds around your heart and that pretty much blocks your magnetic field from interacting with the world. So it's almost like if you're constantly walking around with a shield, right? And it's layers. They represent it almost like an onion, right? And you have an emotion on top of an emotion, on top of an emotion. And then part of the therapy or part of the process, the sessions, is let's discover if you have a heart wall and start working off of that first. So that when you have that heart that is open, that is clear, that is clean, then you're going to start experiencing the world in a different way. People talk about the lightness that they feel after a session, and it might not happen immediately. For me, it did. For me, it was like, I finished the session and I knew that these emotions were lifted off my shoulders. But for some people, it's like, okay, I don't feel anything. And then there's a processing time where these emotions are still getting through you so they can move and get out within usually 3 to 7 days. And then it's fascinating how people come back and say, oh my God, I now know what you meant. And I just love it. I love it. It's honestly, I feel, for me, the emotion code was the catalyst to make me do what I do now. So the emotion code is a portion of what I do, but I wouldn't have gotten to my coaching practice, to my podcast, to all my spiritual journey without first discovering the emotion code and experience it as a client. I experienced it as a client for months before I even thought, is this something that I actually want to do for other people? And I was like, huh. So for me, that was the door. That was the opening for everything that I do now.
Well, it's funny. I was going to ask you about the heart wall, because when I was reading the book and I read about the heart wall, I instinctively knew I had a heart wall. I was like, oh, 100%. I don't even need a practitioner to tell me. Like, absolutely, I have a heart wall. I don't know what to do about it. I don't know how to clear it, but I can feel it. I can actually physically feel it. And I think, I'm very in tune with my body as a yoga practitioner. I do a lot of body work. And so maybe not everyone can feel it, but I can tell you that I personally could feel mine. And so I went into my first session, and I didn't say that to the person doing the session. I just was like, I'm just going to be open and let her tell me what she tells me. And she's like, yes, you have a heart wall. It came up, and it took us a couple of sessions to fully clear it. But then afterwards, I mean, it's really indescribable, the lightness, the freedom, the love, the gratitude. When I tell you, I was literally dancing in the woods like a maniac, like a crazy person, because I felt so amazing. Like, it just lifted, it cleared. I could actually physically feel a lightness in my chest, like it had been removed. And it was amazing. And I continued to feel that, up level of love, gratitude, compassion, open receptivity, like, because it was gone. I mean, it's really wild. And here's the other thing I'll tell you, which is you can tell me what you think of this. I had gone to a sound healing, and I didn't realize it, but when I went to the sound, I didn't realize it was a combination event. So it was sound healing, and then they had an emotion code practitioner who's walking around while you're laying on your mat, or they're playing it was crystal bowls. They're playing crystal bowls. You're laying on your mat, the emotion code practitioner is walking around and she's clearing emotions on people as she's walking around. And then at the end, she leaves you like a little piece of paper on your mat and it says, I cleared what are the emotions that she cleared and then who you inherited them from. And she cleared 3 different emotions. I can't tell you what the other 2 were, but I remember seeing one and it was defensiveness from my father. And for
Mm-hmm.
some reason, it just, intuition is intuition, right? The subconscious is what it is. It was one of those things that struck me. Like I felt that very deeply that
Mm-hmm.
was real and right for me. And I was like, okay, and I left and I felt great. I had just had a sound healing. It was all good. Within a day or 2, I woke up and could not move my neck. I mean, it was like frozen neck. I'd never
Hmm.
had anything like it before in my life. And I have ongoing back problems. I see a chiropractor regularly. Like back issues are not foreign to me.
Mm-hmm.
But this was very, very different. And for some reason, I was like, gosh, I wonder if this could have anything to do with that clearing that was done or this emotion code work that I've been doing. And so I texted my practitioner who I see and I say, listen, I had some emotion code work done on me at this sound healing that I went to. And a couple days later, I have this crazy neck pain. Do you think it could be related? And we'll talk about this because I think this is the coolest thing ever. You don't actually have to be in the room with the practitioner, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
literally texting my practitioner and she's saying, is it okay that I tap in basically to your energy field? And I say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And in less than a minute, she says, I'm picking up defensiveness from your father. Is it okay if I clear it? And I said, sure, you can clear it. Within 24 hours, my neck was fine. This
Hmm.
is how powerful this stuff is. She had
Yes.
no idea what that other practitioner had come up with. I literally just said, I had this emotion code work done on me, and now I have this neck pain. Are you picking anything up? And the one emotion that really rung true for me in that moment was the one that she came up with from the person that I inherited it from.
Yes. It's that accurate. And it's wild, like you said. It's really wild because
Wild.
I remember that I had been working with my practitioner for about perhaps few months already. There were several months that we had been doing work when I was seeing her every other week. I think that was kind of like the cadence because you kind of want
Hmm.
to allow for the emotions to be
Right.
processed and be
Yeah.
removed and transmuted
Yeah.
to before you go back. And I was seeing her regularly. And then in that session, the entire session became about my dad somehow. And it was like every emotion were like related to like old memories, like old stuff that I thought again, that I was like, oh, I thought I was over this, my parents'
Right.
divorce or things that had happened or things like that. And it was super interesting. And I remember feeling after the session like, that was really strange. And
Yeah.
that everything was related to my dad. And my dad passed away the following week.
Oh,
And
wow.
I said these needed to be clear
Yeah.
so that I could accept and see his departure and his death with only beauty and love and gratitude
Yeah.
and not with guilt or blame or
Mhm.
things that had maybe been in there before.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful gift, to have the
Yes.
opportunity to unknowingly, my body and my subconscious knew that this healing needed to happen
Yeah.
so that then the healing related to the loss could be processed the way it needed to be processed. And one
Yeah.
of the first things I did was texting my practitioner and say, hey, I'm devastated. I don't think I can even sit through a session. But I
Hmm.
feel that if I don't process this right now, the same thing is going to happen again. I'm going to start getting this grief stuck in my body.
Yeah.
And she said, you know what? The sooner we clear energy, the better. She said, I will allow you to take the time that you need to start doing that process. And I say, let's do
Mm.
it now. And it was painful as hell. I remember
Yeah.
sitting in the sessions, just crying, being able to barely speak, but realizing that we had that gift of forgiveness and that gift of
Yeah.
simply love and gratitude just made the process very different for me. So
Yeah.
you're talking about, your trapped emotion with your dad, and that came up for me. So I wanted to share
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
also honor and acknowledge the fact that it's not a coincidence what happened to you. It's
Right.
just really interesting how just our body knows, and the right practitioner should be able to tap into that. And I'm so glad that
Yeah.
you have that person for you, because
Yeah.
it makes a big difference.
It really does. And you're in the session, at least I've only worked with one practitioner, but you're in the
Mhm.
session and it's a pretty like dry experience, I'll be honest. Like she'll pick something up and then she actually does emotion code, body code, and something
Mhm.
else. There's another code.
Belief
Um,
code.
what is it? Belief code.
Belief.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so she'll pick something up and then she'll basically be like, is it emotion, body, or belief code? And then she'll go there and then she'll somehow like keep whittling it down until she
Mhm.
finds exactly what it is. And then she, it's a very I won't go through the whole thing because I don't want to bore people, but the bottom line is it's not an emotional experience in the moment. At least it has not been for me. It's been a pretty dry experience in the moment, but afterwards you feel so much better because these emotions have been released. And I don't know. It's a fascinating, and I don't know if you can speak to, because really what we're talking about is energy, and as we mentioned, the practitioner doesn't have to be with you in the room, and most of the time when I do it, it's over a Zoom call.
Mhm.
Um, I'm actually having a session done with my daughter tomorrow with a practitioner who's in Spain,
Mhm.
and he does not speak English, and so he will be working on my daughter through my friend who lives in Spain, who does speak Spanish,
Mhm.
with our consent, of course.
Mhm.
But this is how, because it's all energy work.
Yeah.
So, can you speak at all to that of like
Mhm.
how people are able to do this on other people without actually being present or even ever speaking to them?
Hmm. Yeah, it's super interesting. A couple of things that you said. The session itself varies a lot from practitioner to practitioner. So my sessions are a lot more involved,
Mhm.
and it's by choice. It's not by requirement. So if you were trained by Bradley Nelson or his son or anybody in their team, their sessions are very quick, very, very dry. In 20 minutes, you can have like 5 to 10 emotions being removed.
Mhm.
The way that I practice and learn, because of the way my mentor is, we incorporate a lot of coaching, and there's a lot of
Okay.
other type of work that comes handy, like chakra alignments and things like that, right? So it's a very personal and personalized experience, and there it's not one is not better than the other. I think it's just a matter of preference. So
Mhm.
at the end of the day, the process works regardless of the approach. So it's
Okay.
not necessary to, if you did not get emotional during the session, doesn't mean that it's not working, like you mentioned.
Right.
Most of the time, I find in my sessions that there's something that clicks during the session. But I think part of it is because I tend to try to wanna dig a little deeper and ask the
Mhm.
questions and
Yeah.
visualize and plant seeds for what you want. If this is not what we want, what is it that we want? So there's a little bit
Okay.
of manifestation work that also comes in my sessions. But again, a very personalized and
Yeah.
unique experience when it's my sessions. Now, when it comes to tapping into somebody's energy, there is different ways that people do it, right? Sometimes people use their own ability to connect to muscle testing, and by the use of their hands, they're able to sense the answer, whether the fingers that are put together break or they don't break, or how easy they break. To me, that feels a little more challenging, and therefore I personally use a pendulum, because when I work with a pendulum, I feel I'm not manipulating the information in any way. Not that I
Hmm.
would do it
Hmm.
with the muscle testing. It just, but if for some
Right.
reason,
Yeah.
physically, it feels easier for me to read what the answer from a pendulum is.
Hmm.
So what I personally do is, when I have several pendulums, right? And sometimes they don't want to work. They don't, so I ask to my pendulum, like, okay, are you excited to do this session with me? And if that one is not, then I grab my other pendulum and da da da. And then when I am speaking with the client,
Hmm.
I ask for guidance and I ask for permission. And once I have the consent from the person, if I can tap into their magnetic field, the pendulum is almost like automatically I become the person, right? So not in a woo-woo sense of way where it's like I become possessed. No, it's not that. It's just like, okay, now I'm speaking on behalf of you.
Yeah.
So I would ask my pendulum, like, okay, am I Katie? Am I responding for Katie now? And once I get that yes and that okay, then I know that every answer that is going to come is coming from what you're trying to transmit to me. So there is this energetic exchange that I don't need to have you in front of me with me putting my hands on you to feel the answer, right? So when you do a session in person, you're able to use the muscle testing from the client and get your answers directly there. Even then, I personally still love using the pendulum. I just find it super accurate for my purposes and for the way that I work. But there are other ways to muscle test. There's different practices, and every practitioner picks their two favorites, and that's usually what they always tend to use.
Yeah.
We have the capacity to do this work for somebody that is not present, as long as we get their consent. That is the most important thing. You cannot do a session for somebody. You cannot call me and say, hey, Ydaiber, I want to do a session for my husband. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to make sure that he's okay with it. Well, no, I wouldn't do that. First, it's not ethical. And second, it's just not going to work. So once we have the consent, I don't need to have the person in front of me. I like having it through Zoom, through video. I like seeing the person's reaction. I like seeing what is coming up, because sometimes it's not in what they say, it is how they say it. And sometimes it's hard to pick up those cues if you're not looking at the person. So sometimes I will be like, oh, what's coming up? Because I can see like the eyes watering, or I can see they struggle with saying something. I'm like, I know something is coming up. So let's talk about it. Let's try to clear that. It helps me understand where things could be coming from. And also we're able to clear the emotion, not only from the person, but if it's an inherited trapped emotion, we also are able to clear it from whoever they inherited from.
Right.
And the descendants and whoever else might have picked up on that emotion. So sometimes it's a ripple effect that you're contributing to the rest of your family, right? Especially if they have been affected by that emotion as well. We can do that with pets. Pets are they're not going to answer to me, but it's really fascinating. I've seen it firsthand, being, a fur mama of two pets. One in particular, I had to get my mentor to do a session for my dog because I was just too personally involved to be objective about it. And she did a session for him. And the moment that we finished the session, that dog started running around the house after he had not been eating for over a week.
Oh my goodness.
His energy immediately perked up, and he was back to being the normal dog that he was before. So it's those things that it's like, how do you explain that, right? If it's not because of energy. I mean, pets are like the best clients in that sense, because they're not going to tell you, yes, no, that's working, that's not working. You just feel it. You just see it. You just see it materialize.
It's funny you mentioned your dog, because the girl who told me about it, she had used it on her cat, and she had recently had a baby within the past couple of months. The cat, for whatever reason, was always an indoor cat prior to her having her first child. The cat would not come in the house, always wanted to stay in the garage. Previously was a very cuddly, affectionate cat, didn't want to be touched. And she used it on the cat, and the cat immediately came back into that, started living in the house again, became cuddly again, just like you're saying, the cat didn't even know what was happening. It just responded to that cleared emotion, right? To that blockage. Right? I call them blockages. They feel to me like blockages, like things are blocked, you're stuck, and you move it out, and then
and many times it's stuff that they are absorbing from us. So most likely when you are identifying the emotions on a pet, they tend to be things that they got from you, something that they witnessed. There with pets, there's a lot of emotions that come up, like abandonment, like anxiety, like overwhelm. Those are
Mhm.
usually the emotions that tend to come out a lot with pets. Yeah, it is fascinating.
And if you think about it, pets, because they don't communicate, like you're saying, anyone who's ever really loved a pet and had a pet in their home knows that they are energetic beings. They're energetic
Hmm.
creatures. They're very, very, they pick up on your energy
Hmm.
very, very easily. So it makes sense that they
Yeah.
could, get some of that energy, internalize some of it and get it stuck in there.
Hmm.
Um, so fascinating. I really do recommend the book to anyone out there because the book was really interesting. The science behind it is fascinating. That this energy is it really comes back to, again, as a yoga teacher and someone who's like very into yoga philosophy, the concept that we are all interconnected, right? It appears as if we are separate beings walking around, and it appears as if you are one person and I am another person, and on some level that's true. But really, the truth is that we are just all waves in the same ocean,
Yes.
and we literally cannot separate from one another because of our energy is speaking to each other all the time from across the globe. So it's very cool, very, very cool to think about in that sense. So we probably should have done this before, but describe a session. So how does this actually work to people who have no idea how, like, what does it look like? Someone, you're meeting up with someone on Zoom, like what happens?
Yeah, so usually I would start by asking the person if there's anything in particular they want to work on, right? Like if there's an area of your life that you feel that you're feeling stuck. So
Hmm.
usually the majority of sessions tend to go around career or love relationships. And sometimes people are saying like, I don't know, I just feel that things are kind of okay, but I'm not necessarily thriving. So it's more like
Hmm.
an overall well-being, like remove whatever is there that is not letting me shine like the superstar I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
And so once we identify what we're going to be focusing on, and sometimes people want specifically to work on the heart wall, which if I'm going to have a
Mhm.
client for several sessions, then I would rather start them with the heart wall first, and then we can work on the specifics. So once we got that identified, and I'm able to obtain the consent and the approval for access to the magnetic field, then we have a chart of 60 emotions. That chart, I personally like sharing it with the clients so they have visibility to what we're
Mhm.
going through. And
Mhm.
then using muscle testing or the pendulum in my case, we go through asking the questions like, is there any trapped emotion that we can release today that can help me with X, X, and X?
Mhm.
As we go through, it's again a very, very easy, quick process. I usually ask, is it in this column or is it in this other column? Once I
Mhm.
identify the column, I identify the row. Once I identify the row, then I identify within the 5 emotions in that row which one it is.
And
If
that's all through the pendulum. The pendulum tells you which column,
yes,
which row, which emotion, right? Okay.
correct. Which is very so the questions are very specific in the sense of like, is it in column A? So if it's not in column A, that means that it's in column B. So I go
Hmm.
straight to column B. And then
Okay.
I have six different rows. So is it in the even rows or is it in the uneven rows? So if I say, is it in the even rows? No, that means it's in the uneven rows. So now
Yeah.
that leaves me only 1, 3, 5. So I
Hmm.
ask, okay, is it in row 1? Is it in row 3? Is it in row 5? The moment that
Hmm.
I get my yes, then I move into the emotion by emotion. So let's say that in that particular square of emotions, I have depression, anxiety, terror, panic, and lost. And then I go through one by one and see when the pendulum reacts to one of those emotions. And I'm like, oh, this one is coming up.
Yeah.
Tell the client this is the emotion that is coming up. And then I usually try to decode it a little further. So I like asking, is this something that happened to the client between the ages of, if you're 60, then I would say between the ages of 1 and 30? No. So that means that that's in this second part, right? 31 and
Right.
60. And then I try until I get to the number. So
Hmm.
once I get the number, I say, okay, so we have overwhelm and at the age of 45. Is there anything that is coming up to mind? And we usually have to do a little bit of math. Oh, okay, that was in 2020. Oh, well, the pandemic,
Hmm. Yeah. Right.
or
Right.
things like
Yeah.
that. So
Yep.
usually,
Yep.
it usually tends to be a very immediate recognition for the most part. Oh, that's the year when I got divorced. Oh, that's the year when I became a mom. Oh,
Yeah.
that's the year when I lost my dad, right? So
Hmm.
things tend to be the bigger kind of experiences.
Yeah.
but not always.
Mm.
Sometimes it's like, what? When I was 5? I don't know. What could have happened when I was 5? Fine. We don't have to know. We don't have to
Yeah.
identify it. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and clear it. So the way I like working, I usually like to have the client identify where that emotion is felt in the body, right?
Mhm.
Like is it in your chest? Is it in your gut? Is it in your shoulders? What is it? And
Yeah.
based on that, I usually do a visualization to get the person connecting to that part of the body. Try
Mhm.
to literally see that emotion being removed. While
Yeah.
I use a magnet. You can use your
Mhm.
hand because your hand is also powerful enough that we can clear the emotion using that, right? The
Mhm.
energy of your hand is enough. But I like to use a magnet because that's
Mhm.
how I was trained. So I use a magnet, which I use to pass through my main meridian, right? 3 times
Mhm.
for any standard trapped emotion, and then
Mhm.
10 times for anything that is inherited or absorbed or that involved
Yeah.
other people. So those are the numbers that Bradley Nelson felt that did the trick, right?
Okay.
And then as I'm doing that, as a practitioner, I'm visualizing my client getting rid of this emotion and getting it replaced with the opposite, with
Okay.
love, with well-being, with whatever it needs to be,
Mhm.
right? I think there's a lot of power in that, in the intention that I'm
Mhm.
setting for my client to be rid of this and welcome the new thing. And
Yeah.
then we do that for the next emotion and the next emotion and the next emotion. So in a session, usually I tend to remove between 5 and 10 emotions.
Mhm.
Sometimes we linger longer in some because they do become either heavier while we're talking about it, or sometimes we go faster because the person doesn't feel comfortable talking about what happened.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
totally fine.
Yeah.
We'll keep releasing until my pendulum sometimes says, nope, there's nothing else to release. Not
Yeah.
because there's no other emotions to release, but it's because we've done enough in this session.
Yeah.
So I usually ask, is there another one that we can take? And
Yeah.
sometimes the answer is no. And it has
Okay.
happened sometimes at the beginning of the session. And I say, listen, you're not ready to dive into this yet. Can we focus on
Yeah.
something else? And it has happened. It's not often, but it has happened. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, let's not talk about that relationship. Let's go into something else. And then
Yeah.
go into something else. And then the pendulum is back to like, sure, let's release all of this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
that's kind of like how a
crazy.
session goes. Mhm.
Yeah, how the subconscious is so powerful that it can be like, nope, we're not releasing that yet. I need to, for whatever reason, I need to hold on. I'm not ready to release that. I have to hold on to that for a little bit longer, even though maybe your conscious mind is like, no, I want it gone. Like it's making my life uncomfortable. I want it to go. And your subconscious mind is overriding that.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, Joe Dispenza talks about the addiction of the body, right? Like, I'm actually going to be seeing him next week. I'm so excited. I get to go to his retreat.
Oh my gosh, I'm
I know.
so jealous.
I
That's
am like,
amazing. We can talk offline about that, but
yes,
that's amazing.
I'm super excited. So I've been diving deep into, I have read his books before. The material is a little dense at first, but I think that it's like everything, right? It's repetition. And the more you hear about it, the more things start making sense. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I think that it has taken me years to finally being able to digest his content.
Yeah.
And one of the things he talks about is the addiction of the body to those negative emotions. And we
Mhm.
would be like, why would I be addicted to suffering? But if you think about it, the people that we know that tend to be those people who always have something going on and it's just sad and it's just like, poor me,
Mhm.
for whatever reason, right? Whether it's because that's how they get their attention, their validation, their love, they are addicted to that emotion.
Mhm.
So when you're tapping into the subconscious of somebody like that has any emotion that they're addicted to, it's so hard. The body doesn't want
Yeah.
you to let go of that. That is your comfort zone, as
Yeah.
uncomfortable as it is,
Yeah.
because that's all they know.
Right.
So emotion code is one of the many, many techniques and healing modalities that people can use to get rid of things, but there's nowadays there's like so many others, right? And some
Yeah.
people use Reiki and some people use other types of
Right.
modalities, but for me personally, the emotion
Hmm.
code changed my life.
Yeah.
And then I feel like it is such a powerful technique that I just want to share with the world. I want to share with everybody
Yeah.
that, and as you know, there's a lot of other things that I do. I do sound
Hmm.
healing, I do human design, I do other
Hmm.
things because
Hmm.
I don't believe there's one thing that is the magic wand that's going to solve all your issues.
Yeah.
And there's the free will, and there's also the willpower of,
Hmm.
do you really want to rewire your brain? Do you really want to get rid of these emotions? Do you really
Yeah.
want to explore who your highest self is meant to be? And
Yeah.
not everybody's ready for that yet. And that's okay.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you. I think there are countless healing modalities out there. And which is amazing, right? Because
Hmm.
we have so many different ways of kind of getting at the same thing. And
Hmm.
for certain people, certain things are going to work better for others. Here's a great example. I've been to acupuncture many, many times. I have never felt that it did very much for me. I believe in
Mm.
acupuncture. I think that it is an excellent healing modality for many people. It's not for me, and that's okay. So I tried emotion code, and emotion code was really effective for me. So it's not this or that, like this is good and that is bad, or this works
Hmm.
and that doesn't. It's really a lot of playing and trial and
Hmm.
error and seeing what works for you and knowing that it's just all different ways of getting to the same place
Yeah.
and finding, the way that feels in alignment to you and to your body and to your soul. And like none of it is wrong,
Yeah.
as long as you're working with obviously you want to make sure you're working with somebody who's qualified and legitimate and respectful and all of those things. But
Hmm.
a well-trained practitioner in any one of these areas can do amazing things. So the
Yeah.
one that you feel like, ooh, like that little internal tug, that internal pull towards is the one that you should move towards.
Yeah.
And I can tell you the first time I heard about this, that's what it was. It was this internal tug, and it was enough to, it generated curiosity. And then I
Hmm.
was said, okay, let's just see what happens, right? Let's just give this a shot and see what happens. And that's how I encourage my clients to do pretty much everything, right? When they're
Hmm.
just learning to really be in touch with that intuitive part of themselves and then just follow it
Hmm.
and see with open heart and a curious mind and see what happens.
Yeah, when I came across the emotion code for the first time was during the pandemic, actually. And it was because I think everybody was spending so much time on social media, right? That I came across the picture of a friend of mine and I was like, oh, you look good. What are you doing? Tell me your
Yes.
secret. And he was just glowing, and he
Yeah.
was like, huh, funny you say that because I've been doing the emotion code. I'm like, what is the emotion code? And
Right.
he sent me the link to the book. And
Okay.
he's like, read the book first. And if he resonates, because it doesn't resonate with everybody, if he
Yeah.
resonates, let me know and I will put you in contact with my practitioner. And that's exactly what happened. And the rest is history.
Uh-huh.
But the other thing that I wanted to also mention was this is something that people can explore by themselves as well. Like if you're able
Hmm.
to read the book, give it a try by yourself. See if you're able to recognize the answers from your own muscle testing and see if you're able to clear some trapped emotions from yourself. I find that when I try to do it on myself, it's never as effective for
Hmm.
some reason. I have no idea why. Um, and that's why I have a practitioner that I work with.
Hmm.
But even if it's just as an experiment, as something fun to try, something new to
Yeah.
try, check it out, give it a try
Yeah.
and see how it works. So the book itself is very intuitive enough that you can follow through it and practice and see if it resonates. And if it
Yeah.
doesn't resonate for you doing it on yourself, well then call me.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. And he even says in the book that this is something that you can do yourself.
Yeah.
I tried a little bit on my own. Honestly, I didn't want to take too much time because I was excited to try it. And so I just wanted to like move on with it. But I felt like you're using the pendulum, I was using the muscle testing. That's the trickiest part, is to be sure that either your muscle testing or your pendulum is really not influenced by
Hmm.
your thought processes or whatever. So yeah, that's a little bit of that's like, I think the hardest part. It's
Yeah.
really actually a pretty simple technique.
Yeah.
It's just not being biased and
Yes,
getting the right.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. I think that's the challenge. And once you get over that, and then if you completely feel that, oh yeah, this is moving on its own, or yeah, this is the answer, and I'm feeling certain about this, then
Yeah.
great.
Right.
I feel that way when I do it for clients and for other people, but for some reason, I doubt myself when I'm doing it on myself. I'm
Yeah.
like, was that it? Or am
Right.
I making this up? Or am I
Yeah.
forcing an answer?
Right.
So that's why I'm like, yeah, no, there's certain things that I rather delegate and use somebody else to do it on me.
Right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that you should mention that you saw that person and you were like, oh my gosh, this person looks amazing. Like, what are you doing? After a couple of months of going on my sessions, I went to just to get a haircut from my hairdresser, who is a lovely, very spiritual, intuitive woman. She had no idea what I was doing. I sat down in her chair and she was like, whoa, what are you doing? Your energetic field is insane right now. It's like, oh my God, it's my emotion code.
Yes, yes.
So
The
it's
same thing happened to me. I remember I started working with this woman around Thanksgiving time, and it was January. And the reason why I remember is because we were still in the middle of the pandemic, right? So this is 2021. And I remember I went to get headshots, and the photographer said, whoa, there's something with your energy going on. And at the same time, I booked, which is not common as an actress, I booked 2 jobs back to back for TV shows. And I remember people on set telling me, you are so magnetic. Like people were using that word. It's a word that
yeah,
I use a lot, but people were
yeah,
using it for me, on me. And I'm
right.
like, they're like, you're so magnetic. There's something about you that is just so attractive. And I'm like, yes, that is the
Yeah,
emotion code. And that was in
yeah.
January. And then in February is when I lost my dad. And I felt like,
Mm,
oh, wait, my light is not there anymore. I have to
yeah,
work on this. So
yeah,
it's not the end of all. It's like we gotta
right,
keep working on it.
right. It's a
And
practice like anything
a
else, right?
practice,
Yeah,
and I still get sessions done, and I
yeah,
still get other type of sessions done. I do love
yeah,
acupuncture, by the way.
yeah,
uh, but see, chiropractors don't do it for me.
yeah,
So like we each have our own way to get to the healing, to get to
yeah,
the uplifting of that energy. So whatever you're
right.
using, just stay consistent and keep trying. And I think that's the best message that I can give anybody. It's like
Yeah.
we don't ever stop healing.
Yes. It's a journey for our
Mhm.
entire lives. And I hadn't thought about it like this before, but in the way you were describing it, we're all really just a being of light, right? Walking around in a meat
Mhm.
suit, a body, right? We're zipped up into this little body. But the way you're describing it, and I think this is so true, it's like by peeling all of that away, right? By peeling all these processing, releasing, getting rid of all of these trapped emotions that have occurred because of things that have happened here on this, physical plane in this lifetime that we're having, we're actually kind of getting to the root of really who we are, which is that beautiful being of light. And it's allowing that light that we are to shine through because there's so many fewer layers on top of the light. It's like we're clearing the glass and we can finally see that light shining through, which is
Oh, I love that so much.
beautiful.
I love that so much. And if you think about it also is when people talk about authenticity, right? Which is it's a word that is thrown out so much nowadays, but it's like the truth of it is that when you are that simple essence of who you're meant to be and you're showing your light the way that it's supposed to be showing, that's why people feel so attracted to you because it's like you're being you. And it's this
Yeah.
authenticity combined with this energy that people are like, I want a piece of that. And they don't know
Yes.
why. And sometimes we
Right.
don't even know why we're feeling that way, but it's like
Right.
it's doing the work
Yeah.
that then people start noticing.
Yeah.
And that you start noticing that you're like you said, you were dancing like a maniac. Yeah, because that's how your energy feels, and it's
Yeah.
like what a gift that we're able to give ourselves that. So why wouldn't I, right? Why wouldn't we
Right.
do that for
Right. Yeah.
ourselves?
And that's the truth of who we are. That's really who we are, right? Is
Hmm.
the one that feels magnetic and energetic and light and is dancing in the woods. That's really who we are. But we forget that that's who we are because we have all these other experiences that we don't feel that way for
Hmm.
periods of time in our life. So to like
Hmm.
just be like, that's who I am and I can get back to that. And I read something somewhere. So all emotions have, and I'm sure you know this, but for our listeners, all emotions have different like vibrations, energetic vibrations.
Hmm.
And so your lower vibration energies are like anger and fear and, all those things that we would consider to be emotions we would not prefer. Then your higher vibration emotions are things like love and compassion and gratitude, so on and so forth. But the highest vibration that they have ever recorded is not love, which is what I would have guessed it would have been,
Hmm.
but it's authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
How
is.
how crazy
How
is that?
crazy. Yeah, how
Yeah.
crazy. And then it's when we are in the middle of these emotions that don't feel good, right? Because it's going to happen. We are living
Right.
a human experience and it's going to happen. It's not so much about how we get to that authenticity from, 3, 2, 1, I'm there, but it's about how did you slowly start going up the stairs and visualizing that as a way to, okay, maybe instead of anger, I'm going to feel compassion.
Mhm.
That already is a huge jump for being in a state of anger. So all the emotions we feel are valid. It's just
Mhm.
a matter of recognizing when they come in so that they don't get stuck. So
Right.
this is when you won't need the emotion code because you're so good at the awareness portion of it. And it's like, ooh,
Mhm.
wait a minute, this is not me. This is just me getting angry about something external that I cannot control. So, okay, so instead of feeling anger, what can I shift this into?
Yeah.
And there are ways to do that, right? And every
Mhm.
technique works different for everybody, but it's like going for a run for me, right? Or
Mhm.
listening to music or dancing or petting my
Mhm.
dogs or giving somebody a hug or being of service. That one is so
Yeah.
underrated sometimes. The moment that you
Yes.
put your attention on somebody else, your energy is going to change immediately. So
Yes.
doing all these little things so that eventually you can get to the authenticity, that you can get to the
Yeah.
love, that you can get to the joy. So, but it'll be silly to expect that we're always going to stay in that state,
Yes.
and that's not a realistic expectation.
Yeah. No, it's not. And I love that you say that because I think there's a lot of stuff out there maybe in the spiritual world that kind of implies that we can
Hmm.
always live in that state. And I can tell you that's not been my personal experience, nor has it been the personal experience of anyone that I know in my life. I think that we are always fluctuating between, these different states and these different emotions, and that's okay. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, would you want to live in a world where they didn't all exist? I mean, I
Yeah.
personally wouldn't, even the really tough ones, but they're still sacred. Like you can really actually tap into the sacredness of each of those emotions, even though they don't feel good.
Hmm.
And you don't have to get, like you're saying, you don't have to be stuck there. You don't have to live there, but it's okay to touch them and to know that that's still a part of life and who you are. And you can actually hold two emotions at the same time. You can be
Hmm.
angry and grateful at the same time. You can be sad and actually joyful at the same time. And that's okay too. Like it's all okay. I think the problem is when we, like you're saying, if we get stuck in that negative spiral,
Hmm.
it's just not of service to us. It's not of service to the world, and it doesn't feel good. And
Yeah.
so, that's really the only thing that I think that we really want to try to avoid is getting stuck down there. But
Yeah.
but yeah, we're all on this journey. We're all going to go up and down and up and down, and sometimes within a matter of
Within
10
the
minutes.
day.
Yeah.
So many times during the day.
Many times. I frequently have said like, oh my God, so many emotions, like especially this phase of life that I'm in, this perimenopausal phase of life. It's like,
Yes.
what is with all the emotions? Good Lord, but if you just you have to surrender to them because they're needed.
Yeah, and going back to something that you said earlier, we're all going through it at our own pace. And
Yeah.
I think that even realizing that we're not alone in this journey, that there's a lot of people who are experiencing similar or even worse things that were happening, it's not like it should give you like, oh, well, we're all going through it, but it should be instead like, let me reach out. Let me see
Mhm.
if getting support from somebody who's going through this will help me navigate this better.
Yeah.
And you can find this like on Facebook support groups. There's so
Yeah.
many ways to find the support. And for me has been huge to actually tap into those communities and demystifying some of the experience and realizing that I am not alone in this. Even if it
Yeah.
feels like that many times, you're
Yes.
like, wait a minute, how many of us are going through perimenopause right now? It's like pretty much everybody in my circle. So it's like,
Yeah.
that means I can't be alone in feeling this way. So let me
Right.
ask.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Because isolation it's a really terrible feeling,
mhm,
to feel like you are alone and that no one else is going through it. And you're right. There is many, many people throughout the world going through exactly what you're going through, and to lean on each other is a beautiful gift.
mhm.
So thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we go about the emotion code, about anything that we didn't touch on?
No, I think more than sharing something else, I think it's just also the reminder that doing the emotion code, doing any sort of release, any sort of removal, or even rewriting of our limiting beliefs is just the beginning.
Mhm.
We're just touching the surface onto what needs to be removed. Then the work comes.
Yeah.
So it's that reminder that once we get rid of these layers of stuckness, what do we want to bring in into our
Hmm.
lives? What is the
Hmm.
next step? What are the actions that you're going to take, the aligned actions that you're going to take so that you can live the dream life that you're dreaming of, that we all
Hmm.
deserve
Yeah.
and we can all get? So don't leave it just at whatever the band-aid is. So I
Hmm.
don't want people to use this as a band-aid to be like, well, I did the session and they removed the emotions, therefore I'm set. You're not.
Hmm.
So there's a
Right.
lot of work that needs to come after whatever modality you choose for healing.
Yeah.
There's the healing, there's the surrendering, but there is the work.
Yeah.
So put
Yeah.
that into perspective and figure out whatever is in your hands for the next steps to take place.
Yeah. And I guess, you saying that again, another visual is coming up to mind. And I love a good like metaphor. I feel like I just really do. But when I hear you say that, I envision like a vacuum almost like, okay, we've pulled this out and now we have this void. We've sucked this out. Now we have this void. What are you going to fill the void with? And
Yes.
being very conscious
Intentional.
and
Yeah.
intentional about how you're going to fill the void, because I would imagine that if you're not, the void could just then again get filled by
Easily
something,
and very easily. Yeah.
right, by something you
Yeah.
do not prefer, right?
Yeah.
Like another negative trapped emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like we were talking, doing the analogy also of the closet, right? It's like, okay, what are the pieces that you're selectively going to pick to be in that perfect spring wardrobe, right? It's like you want to be very intentional about it. You're not going to fill it with crap.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
the same analogy. It's like, what do
Yeah.
you want to put back in there now?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Ydaiber, for being here again. You're one of
Thank
my
you.
repeat guests. I don't have a ton of those, so
Oh, I feel special.
so thank you so much. I'll put all of your, information, your website, and any links that you have in the show notes so people can find you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was just, it felt like all I needed was like a cup of tea and felt like I was sitting next to you.
I know, really did. I knew it would. I'm like, we're just gonna have a little girlfriend chat here, and
Yeah.
everybody else is just listening in.
Yeah.
All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. I think it's really fascinating. The whole process is just mind blowing to me. And like I said, I did work with a practitioner several times, and I had a heart wall, and she was able to remove the heart wall, and it was really, I could feel it. It was crazy how I could feel her remove this heart wall and the difference that it made in the way that I felt on a day-to-day basis. And it just really shows, once again, just another way of showing how we are energetic beings and everything is energy. And to try to move through this life pretending like it's only what you can see and touch and feel really limits your ability to expand yourself and evolve in this life. So if this modality is calling to you, if you feel an internal pull towards it, then get the book, or find yourself a practitioner and take a shot at it and see how it feels for you in your life. In the meantime, I highly encourage you to sign up for my newsletter. Once you get on my email list, you will receive my weekly midlife guide. Every week, I sit down and I write on a topic that I feel inspired to write on that week. So you'll never know what you're going to get until you get it, because I don't know what I'm going to write until I sit down to write. It really always kind of just flows through me, and I think that you will be able to feel that if you're on my list, or if you get on my list. The topics that I cover are things that really just come through me. They're not of me. They come from somewhere else and they just flow through me onto the screen where I type them onto. So they're very inspirational. They will often give you little tips and things to try in your own life, or just some things to think about, to contemplate, to question. But I hope that my readers really feel the love that's behind these newsletters, because I do put a lot of love into them for you. So sign up, use the link in my show notes, or you can head over to my website at katiefarinas.com and sign up there. I hope you have a beautiful week, my friends, and I will talk to you next time. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery here at the Midlife Purpose Project. I hope today's conversation sparked something deep inside of you, made you laugh, or reminded you that you are never alone. Remember, it's never too late to reconnect with your soul's purpose and live a life of meaning. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the show, or share it with someone who could use a little inspiration. It really helps the show reach more women and helps me keep the content ad-free. Join me next time as we continue to explore what it means to live with purpose in midlife.